My job was to do some documentary work around, well, a number of things. The first half of my time there was spent documenting boreholes that Catholic missioners, had been working on in the sub-Saharan part of Kenya, specifically in an area called Kibwezi.
We have got what we have been looking for. Lorries, we call them boozers in our local language here in Africa and here in Kenya, bring water for the usage here of the church. All these buildings that are standing, we have been buying water right from almost 30 kilometers being brought to this spot. So really, the establishment of this borehole has assisted us to see life. We have seen life. Water is life. And we believe life will now be in this new proposed parish. God willing, in a few months, we shall see his hand. That people now can wash the church, clean the houses, and whatever, we water the grass and plant more trees.
It was really fascinating. Something I learned there was that you would see these children as you're driving across these vast areas of kind of desert, sort of. There's a lot of growth. I mean, there's trees, and but it was very dry because Kenya has been in a drought now for a long time. And you would see these kids pushing bicycles. And these are sometimes they're referred to as the black mamas. And when Kenya got its independence from Britain, all the bicycles were left behind. Well, these bicycles are still very much used. They're still ridden. And one of the things that I learned, that a priest who was accompanying me in this truck, he was talking to me about these kids pushing these bicycles. And they said that one of the most important things to understand about the water holes, these boreholes, sorry, not the water holes, the boreholes, was that it gave children an education beyond second grade. I said, like, what does that mean? These are some of when we think about looking at things in a different paradigm, and when we talk about poverty here in the country that we're from, so for me it would be in the United States, and trying to relate what poverty in Manhattan looks like in terms of poverty in Nairobi, and trying to balance these. You know, if you go to Kibera or Mathare, the slums of Nairobi, and trying to put that in a perspective and somehow make sense of it, being exposed to the slums and the projects in New York City, it just doesn't work. So sometimes you go into these places in different countries where their level of poverty is so much further than anything that you've had a touch point with. And even if you've had contact with deep poverty in other countries, in other cultures, it can be completely different. So as I was driving in this truck, I had this priest explaining to me, we watched this little girl. She's pushing a bicycle, and draped over the bicycle are these, like, I don't know if they were 2 gallon, maybe 2 gallon containers. They were vegetable oil. Formerly, they weren't now, but they were vegetable oil plastic buckets, and they were draped over a bicycle connected by a rope. And she had maybe like 4 or 5 of them connected to this bicycle. And this little kid's pushing this bicycle. This kid's not even as tall as the bicycle. It's an old 1965 bicycle. And the priest is explaining to me that these are buckets of water, and that this child is going to a watering hole, and she's going probably several miles, and she would do this once a day. And after second grade, he explained to me that it's at second grade that a child is old enough to go get water. And sometimes these trips can take the entire day, and they will get enough water for the household for a few days, and then the child will have to do that again. So once a child is old enough to get water, especially a girl, they're going to get pulled away from their education to go get water and do their job. And you see I'll never forget seeing this girl pushing this bicycle with these yellow bins draped over this old bicycle. And she's like pushing a bike through the desert with water strapped to it. It's just unbelievable when you take a moment, you think about that. Now, the watering hole. Okay, so what is a watering hole in a desert? Well, she was sharing a place, this little oasis, this puddle of water that livestock goes to drink at, that wild animals go to. So who knows how long that water has been just standing still for. And there's a lot of things that you just don't consider coming out of, out of a Western, more privileged world. And this is why one borehole is so transformative. And you would have a Catholic missionary would go to one of these remote parts of Kenya, and they would drill. They would find where water would be available, and they drill a borehole, and then they set up the pumps. And now you have entire communities who can travel to this borehole, and they can get access to clear, clean water.
This is where from the source of the borehole, through piping and plumbing, we have the source of water here, next to the dining hall of the girls. So this is where they receive water for washing the utensils after eating. After meals, that's where they get water and wash the utensils here. That's where you can see some flasks still for tea and hot water hanging here. Very nice water, cool enough, very nice, beautiful.
This completely shifts everything. It shifts everything. People now have, not only do they have access to water, but their standard of health goes up. They can use that water to go to market with certain things. They can use it for fuel, for cooking, for boiling, for sanitation, on and on. You get this. I don't need to explain it. And now second grade girls can go to third grade, fifth grade. Children can have an education. They're no longer reduced to carrying water on antique bicycles from watering holes somewhere in the middle of the desert. Okay, so during this time, not just documenting the boreholes, and maybe I'll do a different, I can go into a lot of details about my experiences there and some of the radical things that I saw while documenting that work. But really what I wanted to share with you in this quick video is about the seed projects and the importance of what's happening in the drought-stricken Kenya, especially with organizations like the CRS, Catholic Relief Services, and Caritas, and some others. But there is this there's this movement in Kenya to sort of address climate change, regardless of where you are on the fence with it. There is a need for the immediate food shortage that's happening there. It's significant, and it's going to be long term. And what they're trying to do, what the Catholic Church is trying to do, is to take this approach, this climate smart agriculture approach with drought resistant seeds. The church, for generations has owned enormous amounts of land. Well, they're converting that land over now to this climate smart agriculture, and they're giving more access to smallholder farmers, and really empowering these farmers, and right down to even in the homeless, the most, even the non-farmers. But they give a lot of benefits to people who own these small farms, and access to not just water through these boreholes, but also through seed programs and seed distribution programs. Things like maize and lemon trees. One of the things that I got to witness here, and you'll see in the photos in this video, are people with their trees. And this was at a couple of different outstations. They're called these mission outstations throughout Kibwezi, where people were so proud of their trees. And it's like a tree, really? What does this mean? Well, it means that a person will have lemons or limes or whatever that fruit is, and they can now go to market with that. And if a woman can go to market and she can create just a small business, that means she now has a say. When she's involved at the smallest level in this local economy, what it does is it almost shifts. It creates an equality shift where a woman who's at market and has a small business, she can then take that profit, she can get more seeds, or she can continue to reinvest in herself. And this is very powerful. A couple of years ago, I did a program where I raised money for vocational studies for women. I got them 3 industrial Singer sewing machines to teach them how to help specifically 9 women to build, to be able to create fabrics, to be able to make like garments and stuff. And what they were able to do is not just go to market with that, not to go to local market, but they were actually able to start a small export business. Now, what this does is if one of these women was able to get into exporting, now they actually have municipal say. They now not only have more voting rights and more access to their say, to what they have to say mattering to people, but they can now get political positioning. And this is extraordinary. It is incredibly powerful. So when we're talking about just one seed, I want you to really consider what that can do and how that can change a life to someone who lives in the sub-Saharan part of Africa that is drought-stricken, and they're given seeds for stress-tolerant crops that can withstand the drought, but can also create produce to give these people not only food and sustenance, but also access to growing business, and to be able to partner with other growers, to share crops, and to get more rights, right? So I found this to be really interesting. A couple of the things here as I'm researching this is that these seed programs also allow for this neutralization of drought. Has always been a weapon, right? And what the seed programs allowed, and these drought-resistant seeds and distribution of seeds to small farmers, for parishes and outstations in these missions, to be able to give seeds to people, just regular homeowners, to grow a couple trees in their side yard, or even for people who are homeless to have a tree at their local church. But what it does is it de-weaponizes. It sort of levels the playing field where drought used to be a weapon.
Before the borehole was constructed, the whole of this place was plain, nothing, dry, because they only relied on the rains to have something, to plant something, but it wasn't reliable because sometimes it rained, other years never rained, so it kept on being dry and almost a semi-hurry. So with the help of the borehole, now they can plant.
This is my friend Lawrence. He is a Kenyan, but he's also a Maryknoll Fathers and Brothers seminarian. He's preparing to be ordained as a missionary priest. And here he explains to us a little bit about the area, what it was like before the boreholes and the seed program. And here I think you can see the results of that work. Again, I already talked about land utilization and being able to give the land back that the church owned to the people through farming initiatives. And here you're going to see a couple photos of that actually in work. Also, education programs where they're using schools, and they're using these Catholic schools also as farms, where the children are learning the vocation through the seed programs. They're learning vocational farming.
When we got the money, we went and chose seedlings that need little water in a year. For example, these trees here will now stay for the next five months without water. They will do without water for the next 5 months. This is the neem plant. We have the Melia volkensi there, and we shall not water them anymore. They will stay for those 5 months without water, and therefore they will grow into trees, and we shall soon have shade in the area. The compound will look beautiful, and we are very happy, and we are very thankful that you gave this assistance.
So there's a lot of really interesting things that that we see at play here, and this is continuing to scale more and more as we see the what's called the Green Climate Fund. This is something that was accredited by Catholic Relief Services just this year. You're talking about $50 million to $250 million of partnerships going on for parish level programs for the distribution of infrastructure projects for farming, for watershed restoration projects, and then again being able to scale up to a more large scale seed production and population. I saw banana tree farms. I mean, that just did so much for these small, poverty-stricken villages.
Yeah, this project started this year, after the borehole started generating the water. And we are appreciating it because it is on a dry land and it is flourishing. See how the green, because we have been enabled by the water from the borehole.
So the takeaway here from this video is not just to share with you some of my work and to share my stories with you, but is to consider that when you make these small donations, just even if it's a couple dollars that you put in the basket at church, if it's for a seed program, I really want to create an echo effect here, and I would like you to hear from someone who was there and saw it. The seed program is that, because if one person can grow a tree, then they can get an infinite amount of seeds from that to continue to grow. And if they can learn and they are able to get the education, and the children are able to be educated, and they can become small farmers themselves, and these schools are able to provide food and sustenance and be able to bring money back to that school's economy. And these small communities and these villages are able to grow their places of worship in these churches because they're able to build small farms within these parishes. It is incredibly powerful. And it really lifts people up out of poverty. And we're just talking about seeds. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you would consider maybe finding a seed program that, if it's a place in Africa or East Africa. There's a lot of them, Tanzania, South Sudan, Kenya. I would ask you to consider it because they really do make a difference. So thank you for listening to this. And I hope you appreciated some of my work, some of the photos that I took. Just wonderful people doing some incredible work, and God bless them. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Kwa jina la Baba, Baba yetu uliye mbinguni,
jina lako litukuzwe, ufalme wako ufike.